Call the meeting of the Clemson Planning Commission to order October 9th, 2023. Planning Commission is an advisory board that is appointed by City Council for zoning and city issues. Members are here, city staff is here. Got a few things to get into tonight. We can start by, I guess, opening the public session. If anybody has anything that's not on the agenda that they would like to bring up or discuss, now would be the time to do it. All right. I'm going to close public session. We're going to move on to the adoption of the minutes from the September 11th, 2023 meeting. Does anybody have any amendments, notes, additions to the minutes?
I'll look at the minutes over fine. See any issues.
Can I get a motion on the minutes?
I'll give you a motion on the minutes to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. It passes.
Who seconded? Did you second?
Yeah, Greg seconded. All right, moving on. The next item is the informal public meeting for the Plan Development PUD 000-146-2023, the station at Clemson. Informal meeting. I don't know if you guys want to.
I'll give it a report.
Okay.
An application for a plan development was submitted by LMP Clemson Cottage Owner LLC on June the 19th, 2023. If approved, a 9.1 acre parcel located at 501 Greenville Highway, was formerly the Viola supermarket site, will be developed as a mixed-use, multifamily, residential, and commercial plan development. As proposed, there will be 72 garden apartment units in 4 buildings and 48 cottage-style townhome units, 4 units reserved for workforce housing. Additionally, there will be approximately 7,000 square feet of commercial space, a park with playground equipment and a small pavilion to be dedicated to the city, a bus stop and shelter, and pedestrian pathways open to the public. City code requires at least 3 separate sessions as part of the Planning Commission's review of plan developments. The first and initial concept presentation was held for the station on September the 11th, 2023. Tonight is the second session, which is an informal public meeting intended to allow members of the public to communicate directly with the development team. And the third step, which will be a formal review and vote on a recommendation for City Council's consideration, will be held at a future meeting.
Okay. Once they do the presentation, if the public has questions, they still need to come up, or?
That's a good question. What we would like to do, and I didn't think
Versus like just shouting them out.
right, they pretty much need to get the speakers to come up if we can, to get the mics, or get them under the mics. But I know it's going to be much more of it's not like public comment.
Right. I just didn't know if they need to
It's give
come
and
up.
take.
Okay.
So to the degree we can get that, it's not going to be perfect. And we can get all the speakers to sign in and give us the information one time, and then we'll be good.
Okay. All right, so after the initial presentation, if you guys have any questions or comments, instead of, I guess, blurt them out from by there, if you guys would come up to the podium and state your name and sign in. State your name clearly. It makes it easier for it to be recorded. And sign in, and then you can carry on with comments and statements from up here. If you guys want to go ahead and start your presentation, I'll turn it over to you.
last time we were here to being able to be submitted to be here tonight. We didn't make any changes to the plan, but we obviously had some public feedback previously and then are here tonight to get some additional feedback as well. So, I guess with that, I'll turn it over to anyone from the public that wants to come up, ask questions. We're here to answer them.
Please.
Come on.
I wasn't here for the first meeting, so if you could present the project, I guess? I don't know what was discussed in the first meeting.
Sure.
Yeah, if you just want to give like a.
Yeah, no worries. So
summation.
as mentioned, this mixed-use development here, in the bylaw site, there was a mixture of different architecture used. The architecture on the outside of the site is what you would normally see as townhome development. It is about 2 stories in height. Most of the townhomes have garage parking as well. And these other buildings, these 4 that look a little different in shape, are what we term as garden building with 3-story walk-ups. Nothing across the site is larger than 30 or 35 feet. In addition, we've also, as mentioned, had a bus stop along Old Greenville Highway. We designated an area over here as a public park and playground that would be dedicated to the city, as well as included some parking over there for access. Lastly, there's about 7,000 square feet of commercial space designated to be totally standalone from the rest of the project, as well as dedicated parking in this area here. The only vehicular gates are located here and here, so there's not a fence controlling the site as far as around the property. It's very pedestrian activated with the path running from this side of the site to the front, mostly to connect it to the bus stop and other uses along Old Greenville Highway. And then we obviously had the vehicular gates and just control vehicular access throughout the property besides from the commercial space. That's a brief overview of that.
I am Robin Mahoney. And my main concern is, probably what everybody's concern is the traffic issue right there. With extra people moving in. Is it student-centered or what?
Yes, we obviously can rent to anyone, but it would.
So it's not like you're buying a condo there, you're
Right,
there
it's
to
all
rent.
rented, yes.
So it is student-centered.
Yeah.
Do we need a lot of student apartments in town anymore? I mean, really?
The school's one of the fastest growing schools in the country, so the answer
Fine,
is yes.
but it's probably not gonna be much faster because there's not space left. There's not a lot of space left here.
I understand what you're saying.
So, what happens to all those older apartments out there when everybody wants to live in a new one? And that's what my concern is. What's gonna happen in those old apartment buildings? Who's gonna move in those?
The create affordable housing for the community, actually. That's how it works economically. So if you create more supply, it will lower the prices of older age product. And that's like the life cycle of real estate. It goes back thousands of years. This isn't.
I understand that, but still, the infrastructure through here is not good right now. We keep building more and more apartments. Nobody can drive in town. I don't go downtown anymore because I can't drive there. I don't go to Seneca. If I go to Seneca, I go way the back way. I don't go, and most people are that way.
I do think one thing that is encouraging for this site is this particular use is 1/3 of the vehicular traffic of what's programmed today. So if anything, I think we strongly feel as though this is going to improve the traffic situation.
Now, what about the people who have businesses there right now.
What about?
I think we,
So if they have businesses, are they gonna pay 3 or 4 times what they pay now to be in your spot?
Well, no, I mean, you have to construct it, so there's gonna be a period of time where they're inevitably going to go somewhere else. But they're welcome to come back. We've got
Yeah,
quite a bit of space.
3 or 4 times the price. So you got businesses who won't be able to be in town.
every market or every retail space is to the market. I mean, obviously, building 7,000 square feet, we'd hope that some of these businesses definitely do come back, and I think.
Yeah,
Well,
our
I've shopped
underwriting
at several
on
of
that
those
retail,
businesses, and they're very convenient to me.
our underwriting on that retail is extremely low, right? Just so you know.
Well, anyway, I just want to know what's going to happen to all the old apartments and how we're going to drive in town. That is the main thing. At this point, I don't think we need more apartment buildings. I don't think we do. We've got that whole issue out there going by out on 123, that 500 house deal there, and I know it's not necessarily in the city, but the way they get in and out is in the city, on Issaquena Trail. What y'all gonna do about that? What's gonna happen when all those 500 homes get built there? I mean, Issaquena Trail needs a stoplight at the end on Pendleton Road right now. It's awful. Have y'all ever been there? Can you fix it? Can we get a traffic light there? I mean, I want to know what the infrastructure is going to be like if we keep building these apartments. And if I hadn't talked to somebody, I wouldn't have known y'all had these meetings because it's not out there.
I mean, I just want to speak up and say that we have had the same response that you're having at the last meeting where
Yeah.
Planning Commission gave their feedback. So
Yeah.
we're just here to support the public right now. We don't necessarily give feedback, but we had your same feedback at the last meeting.
Okay.
Planning Commission
Well,
did.
that's something that needs to be thought about.
Yeah, this is,
I mean, do we want just to be a student community, or do you want business people living here, or teachers, or I live here. Live right in town. Well, right there, right over there. And it's a concern for me. So, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who feel that way who don't know that this meeting is tonight.
just so you guys know, if it seems like we're not necessarily responding to any kind of comments or anything, this session is more of a, between the public and the developer. If you guys have specific questions about the project for them or concerns that you want to bring up for them to answer, now is more of a time for a back and forth conversation between the developer and the public than it is between the public and council. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak?
We're listeners. We're listeners.
The listeners tonight, mainly.
Hey, I'm Annie Caggiano. I live at 411 Skyview Drive, just across from this development, so sign in. And this is just cold and ragweed combining together, so I apologize. I have COVID tested negative 3 times.
You can sit down if you want.
Yeah, you can distance if you would like, you know.
You seriously don't have to stand up there. You can sit down on the first row if you want, man. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't tell you.
So I guess I have I probably had more questions for the Planning Commission, but maybe just a few statements, and I did a few questions for the developer. So has a traffic impact study been done, or is one required by this type of development?
The traffic study is being done. We're completing it now. Basically, we just had to wait till all schools were in session for a period of time to be able to take counts. And that was completed last week, so our kind of report's being finalized now.
Okay, so I guess it would take into account the current light and
Correct.
this entrance and everything, because I think, like you mentioned earlier, traffic is a huge concern. I mean, we live on a dead-end street on Skyview, and I would say the average age of my street is probably 60, average age. So some well above 60, so there's a lot of concern about turning in and out. And then the detention, certainly concerned about that from a stormwater perspective. There is none?
No, there is.
Outside?
So, one of the other plans had it, but basically in this area here and I believe over here as well, we're gonna do underground detention. And then also, you know, we implement planners and things of that nature across the site to also deal with any stormwater.
Yeah, there's actually less impervious surface area now, or there will be less impervious surface area than there is now. And Harris is correct that we're doing underground storage for stormwater.
And then I guess more of my questions are more process related. So this is obviously not zoned, you know, we're going to, or requesting a PUD, right? And old zoning, and then the current comprehensive plan that was just adopted calls for commercial. And so, you know, the question is, what is the process? Because there's several exceptions within this property that would just be accepted, I guess, under the PUD. The 5 students is a massive concern, I think, per unit. How does that get an exception? The setbacks, how do they get exceptions? You know, how do you go from the current zoning to a PUD that encompasses a lot of things that are not meant for this property? That's my main question. But I know y'all can't really answer, but I think that's a concern for a lot of the community. A lot of people couldn't be here tonight that live on Skyview, but this is a lot of their same concerns.
In short, what a PD is a rezoning of the land, and the PD then encompasses its own regulations and stuff so existing codes, R20, CP, all that stuff has its setbacks, regulations, who can live where, whatever. The PD for each individual PD, that is all written from scratch. So that's, if a developer they could do one, they say only one person could live in a house, or they could try to get one passed that says 15 people could live in one unit. So all that with a PD, everything is done from scratch. So the regulations governing a PD downtown versus this PD versus one that may come up in 5 years will each have their own individual regulations as far as setbacks and everything like that.
So this
If
probably
it's
couldn't be
approved.
rezoned
If it's
to
approved.
multifamily.
Well, it would
That's
be,
why you're doing a planned development, I'm assuming.
the request came in from them. Nobody appears.
Right.
It's part of the, yeah, it's part of the
What's the point of a planned development other than just rezoning to multifamily?
I think there's some benefits from our side, kind of design and how the site lays out. And then obviously, I think, you know, we're with the kind of commercial space and some affordable units in the park, there was just other ways to bring some public benefit, you know, outside of the normal rezone process.
Correct. In most cities, you wouldn't do a PD, you would do just a flat rezone of another zoning code. You know, I think we were encouraged here to kind of bring forth a plan that both met our goals as well as some of the community's goals, admittedly maybe not all of them, but we're doing the best we can. And, you know, things like affordable housing, the public park, the continuation of retail, which, you know, in our view is an effort on our behalf to address community concerns. Those are all things that, bus shelter, for example, another one, and we're tending to address those issues, and so it was a compromise, effectively.
Well, I think, you know, as far as what the residents want and, you know, the retail, the park, I mean, a lot of it is a nice effort. Certainly don't want to minimize what y'all are trying to do in this development, but when you look at the comp plan, you know, the number one concern and the priority issues by the surveys of the residents, which was 99% of the people that answered the survey, number one was traffic congestion. Number two, 70% was protecting existing neighborhoods. So 70% of the residents say that's the major concerns. Those are the top two. And then number three was traffic safety. So I think, you know, while this is a very nice development, the pictures are very nice. You know, the park, the retail probably isn't something that the residents are wanting right now, especially when you look at all the empty retail within the community right now. I mean, there's a lot of high-end empty retail. It'd be interesting to see what the occupancy rate is right now. You know, because Victor and some of the other owners in this retail space right now that we all know, they're our neighbors, and we go there, they are going to be displaced. They're probably not going to come back, right? Because they have to find somewhere to go. during construction. So these are just a lot of the concerns that we have right now. Thank you.
Before I forget to mention, people were mentioning not being aware of the PD or anything coming up. If you sign up for the city's email blast, you'll get notices and agendas for the planning commission and all of the boards in town. And you can click on the agendas and it'll list what we're going over, and you won't miss any kind of rezoning or plan development or anything like that that's coming out. You won't be caught off guard. It's pretty easy. Just sign up on the website and you'll get a blast about all the meetings and everything, and there'll be attachments right on it with the agendas. Anybody else have any questions?
Judy Graham? I have a question. When you did your traffic study, did you include the large student housing thing that's on Lawrence Road? I mean, that's gonna be opening up any minute now.
I'm unsure, I mean, you're talking about
Is that
Swan
traffic?
Way to the north.
Because 133 is already jammed. That traffic's gonna funnel onto 93 and meet up with the traffic from your place. Have you considered that?
I can check with our traffic engineer, but I know that they're very familiar with the traffic in the area, and we make sure to kind of encompass
The traffic up to this point, but now you're gonna have another large group of students coming down 93.
When is that project due?
Pardon?
When is that project open?
I imagine it will be by September, because some of the units look like they're pretty well finished.
It's Lawrence Road.
Lawrence
It's supposed to,
Road.
yeah, it's probably occupied in August.
Pardon?
It was August.
Yeah, next August.
So then we would have captured that in our survey. I mean, we can double check. I'm fairly certain it's in our survey.
Because that will make a difference.
Next August, though, not this previous August.
Oh, not this August?
Yeah,
No, it's still being constructed, it hasn't opened
Yeah,
yet, so there's no way we could have possibly done.
But there's no way to future test that, so other than just stand back in the project for a year, we don't actually have a good way to validate it. And it goes to next August, so.
With your commercial space, are you going to make any allowances for the business that might want to return?
So,
7,000 feet, or what's your
yeah,
prediction?
it would replace almost all of the existing retail that's there.
But at what cost?
Can we focus on one version, please? Thank you.
That's my question.
So I'll answer that.
Are you
to
going to make allowance for costs so that they can afford to go back?
And so our underwriting on that retail space is negligible. It's about as low as any retail space is ever going to be.
Except that they have to, the moves in and out is going to be costly.
Yep, I understand. But I mean, they're on expiring leases. They do not have a right. They're not property owners. They have no fundamental property rights. So what effectively, if it's not us, that they're still going to be in the same situation they are now. Right? Like they don't have, this isn't a 10-year lease or a 20-year lease.
In here.
What's that?
I said it could be another retail operation in here.
Well, other than to say that the existing retail of the last 7 years is a part of it, right? This is the reason this property came for sale. We didn't force anyone or incentivize anyone. This was a marketed property. The existing property owner decided retail wasn't feasible here, and so has decided to sell it. And we,
I'm just not sure that Clemson needs to lose any more small businesses.
Does anybody else from the public have any comments or questions?
My name is Kathy Kaywood. I live on Briggs Drive in your backyard. And I just wanted to concur with the things that they've said, just to make sure that that is a very big concern. A lot of us have used the businesses that are currently there that are not going to be able to come back. The traffic is the biggest thing. To get from our house on Riggs Drive onto College Avenue now is very, very difficult. any ways that we have to get in and out are just full of student traffic, and this is all gonna be adding to that because it's more gonna be coming and filtering out through all these other ways to get to campus. So I think that's just the main concern for most of us, that there's no way to expand any of the roads locked in, so that has to be considered when you add this many people all in one spot. So I just want to thank you for the opportunity to come, and thank you all.
I'm Jordan Harmon. I was here for the last meeting, so I'm not going to go over all what I said before, but I mean, I'm with everybody else. We don't need more of the student housing. But one thing I thought about after that meeting was this space right in here, this parking space. How much parking space is that for this commercial space?
I want to say it's 3 per 1,000, probably.
Is it roughly about what's there now?
In terms of in that kind of front of the current.
In front of the current.
I would say it's pretty comparable.
Okay. Have you ever been over there whenever it's real busy? It's usually pretty full, and what we have right now is we have existing spaces that people can park into. So what I'm asking you is if we fill up this commercial space right here, and we don't have sufficient parking, how do you expect the businesses to thrive, even if they do come back? Because if their customers can't come in and park, this is just negligible. You're throwing this in there because you want us to feel good about it, but we don't. So, anyway, have you ever been over to Grandmark? It's just right up the road here on 76. You might want to drive by it. It's basically what you're talking about doing now. It was a shopping center that had a bunch of businesses in it that we all liked. Someone came and bought property, kicked them all out, tore it down, threw up student housing, and threw in negligible commercial space down the bottom. It's pretty much empty. Does anybody go over there?
You can't park there.
There's no parking.
For anyone but the.
There's absolutely no parking. And the reason why they put commercial space in is because the city told them they had to. There were standards in place that said if you're going to put up this high-rise student housing, you got to put commercial space in. They said the same thing you're saying, that they don't really care what they're renting for. You know, I see you're on your phone, you don't care, but they really didn't care whether it was full or not. And it's basically what you're saying too. We've got plenty of that around the city. We don't need more of that. So what I would implore you to do is come back with something that we need.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Nanda Edgerton. I live on Charleston Avenue. Can I give you this envelope so you guys can take one and pass it around? Oops, sorry.
Tell me your name again.
Nanda Edgerton. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So, I'm here to just basically say what most residents feel, because we all talk and we're on next door a lot, and privately we speak with each other, a bunch of us, a lot of people, and the consensus is that we would like to request that the city does not approve the developer's request to change zoning from commercial to residential. Because residential, we don't need any more residential. Student housing or anything like that, it's like ridiculous how much there is anyways. There's over 80 plus developments that are pre-existing within a 1 to 4 mile radius of campus. And they provide shuttles for the students to go to school. They're on the bus lines, the red line for Cat Bus. So that eliminates traffic because they get picked up and use public transportation or shuttles. And there's an expansion behind the Summit Apartments in Central that is humongous.
that's gonna be housing a ton of people. There's an expansion over at the pier that's gonna be housing a lot of people. It's enormous. We certainly do not need this. What this gentleman was saying, the developer side, what they were saying about businesses don't, and you know, it went up for sale because commercial, I guess, businesses don't survive there. I don't think that's a true statement. I think what we do need is more commercial, different types of businesses to come to Clemson. Like the one lady in the pink said, she goes to Seneca. She doesn't even want to drive around here anymore. Like she wants to do something, she'll go around the long way and go to Seneca and do something. Why should Seneca get our money, Clemson's money, as far as like retailer businesses? Why should we go to Hartwell Village to do stuff, you know, to buy and spend our money there? Why can't we have more businesses that will feed on each other and expand the revenue here? The paper that I passed out to y'all are ideas that were sent to me privately and asked me to give it to you just to get an idea of what people would like in that area. And all those businesses, there's nothing like that around here. Like a simple one that's on that list, the bowling alley, you have to go to Seneca to go bowling.
You may want to give it to the developers.
Yeah, if you want to take one of those.
Well, they're not interested in that. So I'm not gonna give it to the developers, okay? They're not interested in that. They want to put up houses. So, and 7,000 square feet is not a whole bunch of square footage. It's basically two businesses maybe that might be on that list. Okay, 7,000 square foot, what, 3,500 square feet a business? That's not really very big. So that's really all I have to say is that we don't need any more residentials. We need more commercial to bring revenue to the city and to have people stay here and spend their money instead of going to Anderson or Greenville or Seneca. Another simple thing, movie theater, they have to go to Seneca or Anderson to go see a movie. Why can't we have a movie theater here? And a lot of those businesses, like some of them could be like combined ideas, you know, they don't each have to be individual businesses, but they could be combined ideas that would bring in families, you know, and maybe people from Seneca will say, hey, Clemson's got this place that we don't have, and I'd rather go to Clemson because it's better than going to Anderson or Greenville, as opposed to us saying that we need to go to Seneca, Anderson, and Greenville to go do something. That's fun and that we don't have here already. So that's my 2 cents, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Any further comments, questions anybody would like to raise? Development team, you guys have any final comments?
So,
You don't think so?
we should thank everyone for coming up and sharing their opinion.
Okay. All right, we're going to close out the informal public meeting on PUD 000-146-2023, the station at Clemson. Thank everybody for coming and making the comments on that. And like I said, if you guys sign up for those email blasts, you can get the agendas and the meeting notices. And this will be back before us, I believe, unless anything changes at our meeting in November as well, if anybody would like to come back for that meeting as well. And for the record, if you guys are interested more about this process, the way this works is we are not the final approval on this. The developers come and present an idea and a request. We do back and forth, have the public input, we give our input on it in different sessions, and then we will make a recommendation only, whether it should get approved or shouldn't get approved. And after we make a recommendation, regardless of whether we think it should or shouldn't get approved, it then goes to city council if developers just choose to keep going. And then city council will hear it, and the city council has the final vote on it, to whether it gets passed or not. All right, so moving on. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Moving on to action items. We have 2023 R06 proposed text amendment guest cottages.
Okay, let's see. Guest cottages are permitted as conditional uses in residential zoning districts with the height, location, and size of the proposed structures restricted in order to limit potential negative impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. In an effort to better account for the impact of varying site conditions from place to place, this proposed text amendment would require all new guest cottages to undergo a review by the Board of Architectural Review to ensure that the scale, architecture, and materials used fit the surrounding location. Also, the amendment would permit the BAR to grant a height increase on a case-by-case basis to match the primary structure's roof line, and it clarifies how cottages are set back on the corner and curved frontage lots. That's about, yeah, okay, I think I double printed something on my notes and it just threw me for a loop right there.
I was gonna say, I thought you had it covered and then you were kind of.
Oh, I was ready to go, but I realized I copied and pasted twice. So.
Okay, so anybody have any comments, questions, like to start out on this?
Was there a particular reason why this was brought up to make any of the changes? Is there issues that were being had, or just maybe something you saw that could come up in the future?
I think we've seen some instances around town where there have been guest cottages, ADUs built that were out of proportion with the main house. And I think through some conversations with some citizens that came to us with concerns about those, we thought one way to tackle that was through the BAR, who we think can help guide that process efficiently. Not to say that you guys aren't efficient, we just thought that was the correct avenue to direct it.
Adding the BAR.
Yes,
right?
yeah. And I think Curtis can attest to that. He's been on that. But I think really there's a lot here. I think what we, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, I think what we're probably most concerned about is proportionality to the existing house. We all know just what we just saw. Clemson's a very hot real estate market. ADUs are an easy way to increase square footage on a house, and we're not against or even taking a stance on any of that. We're just saying that if something comes forward, we want it to be in proportionality with the house.
And just to kind of put it on the record, the focus on the expansion of the occupancy of ADUs and guest cottages, whatever form you want to see it take place, it's a trend nationally with the affordable housing crisis. Some cities are reducing standards to allow for more because it's simply so expensive. And you can see, we've got kind of, I guess, just the leading edge of what's coming, sort of working into Clemson now. So going forward, this will be more and more of an issue day to day that we're going to have to deal with. And so I guess maybe we've got something of sort of a blessing to have seen a little bit of this and seen some issues that we know are going to keep coming back. So we have a chance now before too many things get past us. We can address it.
So in here it mentions it mentions like it going before BAR and making sure that I guess it matches but it's still a 900 square foot guest house. I mean a 900 square foot. So if you have a 5,000 square foot house, when it goes before BAR, are you able to negotiate the size of the guest cottage? Because here it's saying it needs to be 900 square feet. So it's going to be 900 square feet for someone that has a 1,200 square foot house or someone that has a 7,000 square foot house, correct? is what, okay. Because I didn't know the case-by-case basis with BAR, how much control does BAR have?
Well,
Because when they're deciding the height of the building, and I'm like, how are you gonna?
Yep.
But that would be a situation though where the BAR could say if it's a 1,200 square foot house where you can't go above 300 square feet for proportionality, correct? If they were to technically.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that you guys have had experience in the combined meetings, for those of you that haven't sat on the Board of Architectural Review, but a lot of the ways that I've been impressed with the way those meetings work is more of a back and forth with a contractor or a homeowner. That's more of a negotiation, like more of a sitting around a conference table conversation of, hey, have you thought about this, try this. And these meetings are a little different. So I think that's what we're trying to get of like, hey, if you bring us something that's totally out of whack, hey, can we talk about this before, under current zoning, we just say go ahead?
I need some clarity. Greg, maybe I misunderstood you. Is there a proportionality to this? If you only have a 1,200 square foot house, you cannot have a 900 square foot guest house? Is that what, Greg, you were saying?
No, it's limited.
900
Max would be
900 is the max.
But the bar could say, technically or hypothetically, the bar could say, well, a 900 don't meet the appropriateness with a 1,200 square foot house.
So you're just talking hypothetically?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right, I misunderstood.
Yeah, sorry.
I may be imagining this, because it was a long time ago, and I tried to get time to follow it up, but didn't there used to be a limit on accessory buildings? In other words, I'm pretty sure this, and when I say a while back, maybe 20 years ago, I looked into it, that if you had whatever size your house was, your accessory building could only be a certain percentage of your square foot. So if you had a 2,000 square foot house, your detached garage couldn't be 2,000 square feet. It could only be, I think, 25 or 30% of your existing square footage. Or am I imagining that?
I'm just not familiar with that.
I'm not aware.
Okay.
I have the old codes though, I'm happy to.
Well, because what I was trying to get into the proportionality of, I'm trying to take away the leeway of, because what I don't want to run into is Joe, who has a 1,200 square foot house, wants to build a 900 square foot, and they say, no, you can only build 600. Okay, fine.
With
But
the
next
two-car
person said,
garage. With the two-car garage. So now his guest cottage that's 900 square feet for the guests to live in now has a 2 or 3 car garage, so it becomes larger than the house.
I don't think that's not allowed. I think.
and you can have 1,800 square feet, you can have a 900 square foot garage and a 900 square foot apartment above it.
Well, then
I'm according,
misunderstanding a lot of
right
things.
now, that's the way it is. With these proposed changes, if you had a single-story resident, I believe the idea is that the height of the guest cottage could not exceed the height of the primary structure. So if you have a one-story house, you cannot have a garage with an apartment on top. Now, you could have a garage with an apartment in the back if you've got space for it. But what I was getting at is I don't want to run into an issue where Joe's 1,200 square foot house gets a 600 square foot garage and a 600 square foot guest apartment, but Tom's 1,200 square foot house, they say you can only have a 400 one because the amount of trees you have or this, that, or the other. And I didn't know if we want to look, if proportionality is a concern, if we wanted to look at setting some type of scale of 25, 30%, this, that, or the other, like just so that people know going in. I mean, the negotiating, it's not that it's bad, but something to me about that, I'm not saying anybody does it, but the appearance of being unfair of where, well, that guy's house is only 3 feet bigger than mine, why does he get another 100 square foot on his apartment? And I don't know that that'd be an issue right away, but it's the idea of same rules for everybody knows that they're going in, and maybe there's an appeal process where if you feel you have an extenuating circumstance, your lot is 1 1/4 times what a standard lot is. You can appeal for an increase in percentage if your house is this big or that. I mean, I know that's starting to get real complicated with all this stuff, but
There's nothing in here that says that BAR has that authority.
it does, BAR has the final authority to approve the plans.
Right, but nothing in here says they have the authority to change the limits on the size.
Yeah, it's exactly what it says.
Where?
That's the whole point of it, I think, is that they can decide, well, the two-story one doesn't fit on this property.
Yeah, 6 and 12.
Yes, okay, yeah, 6, 12.
I mean, it doesn't, there's not a lot of detail there, but there again, I guess that's your point. It's. 'Cause
Right, but BAR has to approve it, so whatever without it being in writing, if they do not approve it, then it does not get done, and if they think your guest cottage garage is out of proportion, it doesn't look right, then they have the option to not approve it, regardless of the size, correct? I mean, there's no appeal to that.
Well, I mean, there would be.
I mean, I guess
There's an administrative appeal.
Administrative appeal, yeah.
Okay, there's lots of recent information on these auxiliary living units. 900 appears to be pretty much standard what you see out there. I guess the first comment I'd like to think that maybe we use the word 900 heated area rather than leaving it open as to not necessarily adding in garages and things like that. But I think the intent was it would be a 900 square foot heated area. It would be a living unit only, not a storage unit or anything else. It's strictly for a living space. And it bothers me a lot that we've got the section over here on 6 that talks about allowing it to be greater than 25 feet to match the existing base house, if you would. And I would think that might be objectionable in some areas where it might be hanging over the fence line, if it was in the back 40, because that's kind of where these units would be directly behind the main residential home. So it may be a little bit of an issue. Still has a setback off the back line, but still it might be a little high for the neighbors, so to speak, in the back. It just kind of bothers me that we'd allow it over 25 feet to match the main house. I'd kind of like to see it maintained at 25 feet. And it wouldn't be an option necessarily to go higher.
Well, I think the intent of the higher is simply it's not a storage or anything, it's just to change the roof pitch. So if your main house has a 10-12 pitch and your auxiliary one at 25, you're gonna do 2 stories, you wind up with a 6-12. Would it look better to give them, because it's not like your walls are going up another 5 feet, it's kind of just the peak of your house to get your roof slant, so that it kind of matches.
No, I could see it maybe accelerating and being a different open roof line inside the house. I mean, 900 square feet is not a lot of house, particularly any house. So how much can you do with it, so to speak? Like the guest cottage idea, I mean, that's not an issue at all. Holding it to the heated 900 square feet may be a consideration.
If that's the case, I'm having a bad night here. Number 8, I read that and I thought that 900 square foot included the garage, as I read number 8, but obviously that's not the case.
So as long as the footprint doesn't exceed 900 square feet. So you could have a 2-story building with a 900 square foot footprint.
Well, I guess the definition of footprint is the subject here. Somebody define footprint for me.
It's the
amount of ground it takes up?
The foundation.
Just the foundation.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it says it can be located above the attached garage.
Right.
I mean, that's an existing term. That's not a new change.
I guess
Where would you find something taller than 25 feet? I just want to know a scenario.
if you had a 2-story with a 10-12 roof pitch, you'd probably be pushing up on 25 feet, depending on.
But does it have to? Can it not
It
just
does. No,
be
it doesn't
25
have.
feet tall?
It doesn't have to. I'm just saying. I think that the point of having the option for BAR to allow a taller is not so that you can have 3 stories squeezed in or anything. It's so that if you do a 10-foot garage and a 9-foot ceiling apartment above it, so now I've got 6 feet left for my or 7 feet left for my roof rise. But if my main house has a 10-12, that it's very steep, very tall. Okay, instead of having a different roof line and to make the two seem as one property, put the same roof line on it. I believe that's the idea.
That's how I interpret it.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, most people think of 8-foot ceilings as standard, you go up to 16 or whatever, but a lot of people like having a 10-foot garage. There's lots of room to take tops off Jeeps, things like that, and work, and then doing a 9-foot makes a 900 square foot apartment seem bigger, so you're pushing up on your height limit already. So I can see that from a building perspective.
Okay.
Obviously, I misread all of this, but I'm envisioning a new guest cottage in my own neighborhood that just went in a year ago. And since the garage doesn't count, wow, that's one large building. I mean, it's almost the size of the house because they're not counting the garage itself. Just a comment, because I see it every day. And I look at that and I say, wow, that is really large.
So, yeah, maybe this makes it a little better proportion.
Well, I don't believe it does, actually.
Okay. Say what you meant again, because I misunderstood.
Well, I thought the 900 square foot included the garage. All right? Obviously, it doesn't. And my proportionality of thinking what 900 square feet really, how that lays out as the footprint, maybe I'm not well equipped to envision what that really means. But I just see, you know, you used illustration of a two or three car garage, and then 900 feet on top of that. That's a pretty good. I can envision a 3-car garage. I can envision that in my.
But does it match the scale of the house beside it?
What's that mean? Match the scale of the house?
I don't know. It'll be different for every house, right? But it would match the scale of the house beside it.
Yeah.
That's why the BAR.
That's a pretty vague.
That's why the BAR is reviewing it.
So would you explain exactly what your configuration is in your neighborhood that has made it so massive? Originally,
it's a 2-car garage with a apartment or guest cottage on top, but it also has a side to the left of the 2-car garage. So it's 2-car garage, and then there's a whole other section to the left of it, and then it's got the 900 square feet, I guess, above it.
So was that an existing external garage?
It was just built. It was just built.
So it was a garage and a 900 square foot?
Above, plus it's got a sizable section to the left of the 2-car garage, which is all one building.
I guess that's totally foreign for how I visualize an accessory structure. All the ones that I've looked at, and they've had a rather lengthy series in the Wall Street about these accessory structures. And all the ones that I've seen in the newspaper and written in some of the technical magazines, it's just primarily the 900 square foot house. There's no garage in the mix. And I totally understand. I don't think that's the whole premise of having an auxiliary building unit is to put another garage out there, making it another massive structure. That's just not the purpose of, obviously we're making it that in some areas, but that's not the whole premise behind having the mother-in-law house behind the house. It's strictly a small living area, doesn't have a storage area attached to it, doesn't have a garage attached to it. It's just 900 square feet, maybe 1 bedroom, open area, bathroom, and that's it.
Well, what's written in black on here is what's already in place.
Yeah, and that bothers me a little bit the way it's written.
So we're here to talk about what's written in red,
No, we can talk
but now
about the whole thing.
we've got concerns about number 8.
Well, if we're amending it, let's get it all out there.
All of it, I think, if we're going to send it out.
Is the point of this, because the new trend that you all are talking about is, someone using that as an investment property?
No.
To build, to rent to someone at a lower cost that would be affordable compared to renting a 3-bedroom house? Is that the trend that you're seeing in other places? Or is it a trend just to add to where if I've got a wife and 2 daughters and I just need to get away for a couple minutes, go out to my little man cave and watch a ball game? What's the reasoning behind this?
I was gonna say, from the ones that I heard really any detail on, as far as reasoning, here in Clemson is because that game day rentals, so that's a piece of it.
Yeah.
But that's not the only reason, because, you know, that's becoming more of, the cost of housing is getting so expensive that I think, and again, I don't know, I've not read the technical journals on this, but I would expect you probably see some sort of, a differentiation, I would think, about there'd be those that there will be more of the traditional mother-in-law suite, and then there will be something that's a little configured slightly differently for your game day for the.
I'm sure, I can see it being split in the middle maybe.
Yeah.
But a lot of, you know, it's like widowed mothers and fathers moving in the backyard rather than, they can't afford to put them in nursing home care, they just need minimal amount of space. You know, that's the kind of thing that we're seeing nationally that they're putting out, especially in high dollar areas. And of course, I think Clemson now qualifies for very expensive housing and be able to, but you know, it's just a small house in the backyard is all it's really supposed to be. I don't think we signed up for game day or whatever, but I totally understand that could be part of it.
But I would think too that then we go down to number 9. Sorry if we're going through this number by number. But it does say that the occupancy still could not exceed whatever's allowed in the district. So, I mean, would that be something, so just to end, you know, what's my occupancy in my district, R20?
2.
Yeah, it's 2.
So,
But you could
2
still
unrelated.
rent to a
Yeah,
college
it's unrelated.
student. You could still
So,
put a college student in
Yeah,
your
so you could
guest
put
house.
one person in an
Correct,
apartment,
unrelated,
hypothetically. Well, I think that was kind of one thing I'm thinking in my head too, is that you build, if I were to build a 2-story garage, but with no intention of using the bottom, kind of goes to what Curtis was talking about, heated and cooled, because you just put garage doors up, cover it up, and you got a door, and so basically you got 2 apartments, that would be 1,800 square feet total.
You can't do that.
I know, that's,
There's enough resident police around here that they're gonna tattle on you.
But the occupancy thing is one thing that not just like concerned, but it's one of the things that I got, because my understanding, I've talked to you guys about this before in the past, I believe, is, so the difference between the residential zoning and the short-term rental occupancy is, so if I have an R20 house and it's got a 2 occupancy, that 2 occupancy applies if I live there, if I do long-term rental, I can have 2 unrelated people there. But if I do game day or short-term Airbnb, whatever rental, then I can rent that to 10 unrelated people for that weekend, and that's fine.
25 days a year.
25 days a year, but so those 10 for 25 days a year, I can have 10 unrelated people there. And so for clarification on this, so if I have Greg's occupancy of 2, and I build an apartment out back, and I do Airbnb, can I put 10 in there for 25 days out of the year?
I don't think you can do that for fire code, but.
Well, for whatever the fire, if it's 7 or 8 or whatever it is, 6, 7 unrelated adults.
Like with bunk beds? Because Airbnb, you gotta have beds for everybody.
Right, pull out, you could do 2 bunks and 2 pull-out couches and you sleep 6. Or 4 or 3 or more than one could I put 2 people out there on a game day weekend? If I did a 2-bedroom, 900 square foot place, could I put 2 out there and you live in the main house?
I have to revisit our short-term rental ordinance, but I think so.
You think, see, so then it wouldn't be, and that's where it comes into, and I get it's only 25 days out of the year, but that is, it's 25 days, 14 weekends if you do weekend rentals. I mean, that's, what, a third of your year for weekends almost? A little under a third?
They can do all of this right now.
Yeah, you can do
Everything you're talking about, they can do right now.
Right. But if we're changing all this going forward, that might be something that I think that we should look at as well, is if we're gonna say, because in all honesty, why wouldn't I build one and say,
I would much rather have 10 people in Curtis's backyard on game day weekend, because he's gonna monitor what's going on on his own property.
right, but what if Curtis moves out and moves to Seneca and then rents to a family in his house who's renters, and now I've also got a game day rental on the back?
Yeah, that's right.
So if we're gonna address occupancy, let's address occupancy.
Sorry I brought this up.
And, I mean, luckily, I think we got through the first part of the agenda pretty quick, so it's not 9 o'clock already. But I mean, that's one of the concerns I thought about was if we do this, you know, because I see the idea, to put something out before I forget, is something I wanted to mention. We are only talking about appearance and scale and proportionality and all that if it's a rental. I can take that same building that doesn't match, and if I only make it a garage with storage on top, I can still build that building that looks horribly out of place. I just can't rent it to anybody. But I can put that same building that people are complaining about in the same spot.
Are you sure about that?
100%. Because it will not have to go, the only thing that has to go in front of bar is a guest cottage. If I build a 2-story garage with my roof line and everything, I can make it at a Spanish style stucco ceiling next to a Craftsman. I mean, and.
Is he right?
Yeah, the AR districts are for commercial.
We don't have residential AR districts.
So, and that's what I was, if we're gonna talk about, like, we need to get, I think, a full-on view of this if we're gonna, and I get that financially, like I was saying, like Greg, when you were saying if I need to get away, that's the incentive for some people to build it, is I can do short-term rentals, so for a third of the year, I don't have it on the weekends, but that third of the year pays for my 60% of the year that I get to use it. So that's, I think, the push. You see the garage is, okay, when people rent it, they can park their car in the garage, or I can use it for storage, because it's not like every house has a ton of storage.
Well, I'm probably going to say something that's not popular, but we have somewhat of a need for housing in Clemson. I'm not opposed to guest cottages. I don't have an issue with guest cottages. I think it's a great idea. Go to Phoenix, everybody's got a guest cottage in the backyard, and they Airbnb it and whatever they need to do. I mean, I'm not opposed to the idea of guest cottages, because somehow we have to house all the people that are coming to Clemson. But I see your point. So I just
Right, I'm not against guest cottages either. Like I would make that. I'm not against it.
I
It's
feel
just
like I can manage what goes on in my backyard better than like them being at a hotel even, you know. So that's my thing. I think a guest cottage, I'm not opposed to.
But from an investment standpoint, because Clemson's a magnet for investors, I say, okay, there's a house that pops up for, it's $299.9 if there's even any of those that still exist anymore. And it's R20 or R12, and I say, but guess what? It doesn't have an attached garage. So I can buy that house for $300,000, I can spend $150, and I can put a double garage and an apartment on the back, and now I've got 2 rental properties for $400, so my cost average is $200 instead of the $300 I was into it.
Now, if you have an attached garage, can you add a detached garage as well?
I believe you could still have an accessory building, correct?
If you already have.
But you cannot have an interior apartment and a guest cottage. I believe.
I think you're right.
Right, so like if you had a basement apartment, you could not then also build a guest cottage. Unless you got rid of your basement apartment, then you could build a guest cottage.
Yeah, I think that's the way it was.
Can you not just say that, is there not a way where you can't have two rental properties on one piece of land? Like on one lot, is there, there's not a way that you can?
I mean, I would assume there would be, there's no current rule that I know of or ordinance or anything, but
To my knowledge.
But does anyone have an ordinance like that where you're not running into somebody renting two structures on one lot?
I mean, you could have the primary residence, I guess, I mean, it can be rented, and then you would have an accessory. You can't have two primaries on the lots.
On one lot, yeah.
Yeah, you can have and that's the reason the accessory it's the limited one. It's not the same as, it can't be, you know.
Well, you can do all of this stuff right now and people aren't doing it because everything in black on here is what's currently allowed. I think what we're reviewing is something related to the
appearance.
aesthetic and appearance of it.
Right, that's the initial
So
change.
we're hypothetically thinking that this is going to be an issue, but they could do all of that right now if they wanted to.
I think the disproportionality is already an issue, and we have instances of that across town. I think that's why this came up. So there are ADUs being built disproportionate to the homes that they are adjacent to currently.
But we don't have anything that we're changing that has the word proportion in it, or disproportion.
No, but the roof line, I mean, the 25 feet.
It gets into
So I
the
just don't
proposed
know.
structure scale.
Scale, okay,
We're
Number 12.
And this,
okay.
So is
setbacks.
12, Nathan, what you're thinking will control that?
I think the extra step of going in front of BAR will control a lot of this.
Okay.
I think where also, I think the number 11, the dimensional requirements on the lot, will limit where some of these will go, which is part of, I think, some of the concerns about the disproportionality to the house. Several I'm thinking of that are in front on the lot, the way they're situated, they're actually in front of the primary structure. So I think there's some things like that that will make it seem less, I don't know the correct wording here, but less, the ADU would be more blend in with the existing neighborhood. Maybe a little better than they have been in the past.
So who tells me how many people I can put in my guest cottage? Like at my house, like right now, if I.
Zoning code, there's a section, there's a occupancy table in the zoning code for each zone.
Right, but it's 2 for my zone. I'm an R20, so it's
Related,
2.
yeah.
But what I'm saying, if they're related, can I put 10
Yes.
people
An occupant-
in my guest cottage?
An occupant is not unrelated people. So like me, my wife, and my daughter count as one. If you have 12 kids, and that counts as one. I mean, so like if a family unit to a certain degree, I think grandparent, like there's a certain degree of out which all count as one.
But game day weekends, if you choose to Airbnb your home, the occupancy counts don't apply.
No, I don't think that's correct. I'm gonna have to look at the short-term rental. I don't think that's correct.
Okay. Because do we need to have an occupancy limit on a guest cottage?
I think it's tied into the property so that you don't wind up.
Well, then I can put 10, I mean, there's 6 of us in our family. We can all go live in 900 square feet and I can rent the house out, my big house.
Right, but then you could rent your big house out to one unrelated group. So one family or one person.
Right, and they could put 12 people in there if they wanted to because they're related.
Right, but it would still be kind of a single family in a single family neighborhood, if that makes sense.
You could get more money for your big house than you could for the We're getting into the weeds,
I
probably.
think, yeah, I was gonna say, I think you're getting into the weeds, and like, those occupancy limits are standard across communities, across South Carolina, across the United States, like that's, I'm sure there's somewhere that regulates it differently than we do, but that's pretty standard planning boilerplate.
Well, I like what you guys have done with the updates on there. And if you guys feel like that's something that's needed to make your, what you do better, and I think by bar, the appropriateness, all of that gives them the leeway. So thank y'all for bringing this to our attention. And I'll apologize for myself for taking us into the weeds a little bit.
You're good.
I like all the additions as well, and I also apologize for my
So what do we
lack
do
of-
now?
I was gonna to kind of come back, I guess, where I started way back when, before we got off into the weeds on everything, was kind of that leeway. And I understand that Clemson is not a cookie cutter subdivision all across the town, that every piece of property, just about, except for some of the subdivisions, the lot sizes are fairly unique and different. I mean, we have an R20 standard, 20,000 feet, but but most of them are 102 by this, or you don't have square lots here, and they slope, and but it's not necessarily so much of a concern, but just something that I would like to think about is having some kind of standards for scale or whatever versus, like I said, so that Tom's half-acre lot with a 1,200 square foot ranch doesn't get one size guest unit, and Jeff's 1,200 square foot ranch on a half-acre lot gets a different one. Maybe somebody had a bad Friday and they vote this way or that, what I mean, just for that kind of thing.
I'm happy to see what other communities are doing and bring it back.
Like, I didn't know, because I really don't think I'm imagining this. Like, because we were looking at it, I think, years and years and years ago, where I used to live, and I swear there was a proportionality aspect for accessory buildings. If you could only do, because we were thinking about doing a garage or storage building or something, and since our garage was built in, it was like, okay, but you're on this size lot, you've got this much coverage, and you can do up to X percentage of your square feet for an accessory building. And I didn't know if that might, kind of lay it out easier for people, and it helped with the proportionality of, what it seems. If you've got 1,200 square feet, 600 seems about right, or 400 seems about right, or, whatever it is.
So you'd say something like 50% would be, say you had an 1,800 square foot, you only do 50% of that, which would be the 900.
Up to
If you had
900.
Up to 900. If you had a 1,200, you'd up to 600.
Yeah, I don't know what percentage you would, but something like that. So 50 or 30, whatever the percentage. Yeah, not to exceed. If you've got X amount of square feet or whatever, not to exceed. And that way it's just kind of, like I said, not that I think anybody would do anything like that, but it's one of those things where you can go in, I don't have to call, I don't have to guess, I can say, right here on this, I can look online and say, oh, I can build 600 square feet, let me get plans for 600 square feet. And then I don't have to have my architect redo my 600 square feet down to 500 because BAR says 600 looks a little bit big, let's take 2 feet off the side or something like that. And then I've got to get new drawings done or whatever for my building, and it's money out of my pocket. That's my only concern, is kind of, it's one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of proper zoning regulations versus a bunch of PDs, is because you can go in and get all your costs and stuff done up front and streamline the process and go and not have to spend 6 months or a year in meetings and back and forth or whatever. Your costs, your facts, okay, I'm ready to go, pull the trigger and be done.
I'm still haunted a little bit by Larry's example where he's got a double garage built, and now they put the 900 square foot auxiliary unit on top of the garage, and I'm gonna guess that the height on that combination is maybe higher than the
25 feet.
I'm sorry?
Well, obviously, I'm not very good at visualizing footprints or height, so I won't even venture a guess there. But
Does it look like it?
It doesn't look like it's over 25 feet.
Is it in proportion or scale with the house? Or does it look out of proportion? Because
It's pretty big, I'll just
So
say
if
that.
it looks-
You notice it.
So if it looks out of proportion, then this would help
Yeah.
make sure that,
Yeah, the BAR is gonna look at scale and, has the authority to make those kind of decisions. Yeah, I think it'll help a lot.
I think a glaring example is say you have like a 3-2 brick ranch and your ADU is a 25-foot hardy board, completely different material structure. Or let's say you have a 1,200-foot, let me go with that, brick ranch, and you build to the max of what we can currently build. It's the amount of proportion. I think that's what we're trying to really tackle here.
And let me just to be clear, I don't have any problem with the attractiveness of it. I mean, it's very well done. It fits with the house in terms of the aesthetics. It's just big. I mean, you notice it.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, I'm sure you can nullify what I'm about to say, but I don't think any of the ones that have been brought to us as concerns are bad-looking structures. They're just
This is
out of proportion
not a
with what's
bad-looking structure.
currently on the property.
okay.
I will say though that in the future, it may be something to keep on our radar because with the new development, such as the Grange that's being built, there's no other houses in town comparable to what that type of subdivision is. That's Patrick Square, but those lots don't have any room. There's no yard whatsoever.
Right.
Most of the time, in my experience, those types of structures in the backyard would be covered under covenants through their HOA to where they tell you what type of structure you have to have. But if it doesn't meet what the city would seem to be aesthetically pleasing for any type of an accessory building, that may be something to keep in mind. Those houses have zero storage. When we lived in one in a previous town, you ride down the road, there's cars in every single driveway because nobody uses their garage. Your garage is used for storage.
Right.
And most places still have to have accessory buildings in the back to fit your lawnmower, lawn equipment, that sort of thing. So it's just something to kind of keep in mind. Because to my knowledge, there's not any other subdivision in town like that.
No, that's good. Yep.
So I guess we need a motion, right?
Well, I guess we could go forward with this, but like, the thing of it is it's kind of like when we were talking about, people used to talk about the building heights downtown, and they changed it for the mixed use or if it had residential, but you could still do a 50-foot commercial building. So that's why I understand that right now the money in the draw is behind the guest cottage, but if the concern is what the structure looks like, then should we be addressing that and not, because like I said, I can take one building, and if it's a guest cottage, it has to go through review and be approved and all that. But if I say, no, I'm just gonna build a garage, then that same building that's out of proportion and this, that, or the other, and all that can be built. So you still have the aesthetics problem from the neighborhood or the neighbors and all that, you just don't have a tenant living in it.
Well, I think that would be on a different subsection in here under, because this is just under guest cottages. So I don't know if there's another subsection under.
No, I mean, that opened up another can of worms, so we'd have to, we don't have AR districts in neighborhoods, so this was.
That was kind of my concern is the justification, I understand, the justification for kind of making this one use a AR or HOA compliant, AR, in other words, that my garage does not have to be reviewed. But if I want to do a guest cottage, now it does. So that was the concern. It's not necessarily the other way of, oh, do we need to regulate garages? if we're not gonna regulate garages, why are we also then gonna regulate this? That is it may have come out back, but that was the concern of not, oh, we need to regulate garages, but if we're not gonna regulate what the building looks like in all situations, why regulate what it's gonna look like in any situation? Yeah.
Well, more people are probably gonna build these guest cottages. That's where what people are, that's probably what people are building right now that you're getting phone calls about.
Well, I just think with the cost of construction right now, like no one's going into this to build something that looks like trash. We're just, yeah, I think the main complaints that we receive are, this is totally out of proportion with the main house. Usually to the, not to the, I mean, usually to the extreme of the guest cottage is larger than the house.
So do we want to wait until we have something about proportion? I mean, about square footage proportion?
That was my concern, is sending this forward with that, because I know we always say we can bring it back up and we can edit stuff later or whatever, but I didn't know if is there like 40 permits gonna pour in the next month or something that you guys are aware of? Or, I mean, you never know, you wake up tomorrow and something be different, but I didn't know if it might be, and we may come back and say that's just not feasible to do it that way, this is the only way to do it, but.
No, I think it's prudent to let us check and see. We'll bring it back. I mean, I'm in agreement that I always want to put, I don't want to keep editing things. I want to edit things once.
And then approve it.
Right, and that was my point, is I know we can say, oh, we can pass, let's send this along, and then we'll bring the whole thing back up again in, you know, a year, whenever we get back around to it.
No, I'm not a fan of continuous tweaking of the zoning code. So that's why I definitely, when we find something that are presented with a problem, I definitely want to get it right the first time. So.
And that's why I didn't know if, and I know that you said you're gonna check on the residency thing or whatever, but since this section specifically deals with the guest cottages, if we also wanted to consider putting in like, okay, you can use it for, you know, whatever the residency restriction needs to be, like you can't have, like you said, you can't have 2 rentals on the same property, or I don't know if that, whatever the way to go is, of, okay, if you're gonna do a short term, it's gotta be limited to keep you under the occupancy limits, or however, I mean, I'm out of words to put that. I think you guys know what I'm trying to.
So can I make a motion to postpone? Is that what we need to do to postpone?
I don't know that we need a motion with our.
That'd be clean.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to postpone the action item, proposed text amendment for guest cottages, to our next meeting, and Nathan will get a little bit more information for us.
A second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. Action item will be held over to the next meeting. Before I forget to read it, Elaine did send a comment, but it's basically what we've been talking about. It was scale and size. So I just wanted to make sure she's watching that I did get the comment. I don't know why I do this every time. I talk about, but yeah, I think it's up there. Got the comment. All right.
She told me she was going to be watching. So.
Yeah. Okay, so that one is held over. Plus, I would like to get, you know, I don't know if Jackie's got input on this or Elaine's. I'd like to hear what they have. I hate having stuff go through when everybody's not here. I know it's hard to get everybody here, but. So next item on the agenda is advisory items.
No advisory.
No advisory items. All right. Discussion items. No discussion items. Staff reports on anything?
What's the latest on the comp plan?
Yeah, we'll be, I think the next thing you'll see is an invite to the kickoff. I wasn't in the office much today, but I did manage to fire off an email to ask him when we can start posting the event notice and date and time and location. So I'll let you guys will be the first to know.
Comp plan date incoming.
I should have asked a question. I apologize. Where are we with the Uptown effort?
Yeah, that's a good question. They did their first public presentation in front of council And so then they'll come before you guys next. So they're still doing their due diligence. I have a conversation with the developer and like our fire marshal and forgot who else he invited. He's wanted to speak to like specific to utilities and things right now, just so they can really hone in their drawings before they come in front of you guys. So I would expect you very well may see something in November, but if not, I would absolutely expect to see something in December.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Covers the staff reports. Other items? Representation at council meetings, anything?
We've got the public hearings, just public hearings next Monday. So, for the text amendments that the commission approved and the rezoning at Calhoun Forest, they're all, there's a series of 5 public hearings held concurrently starting at 5:30 next Monday. There will be public hearings, so it's not like there should be any action or anything like that. It's so, but of course, they're public, so you're more than welcome to attend. But there's nothing that I would anticipate.
That's what I'm saying. We don't need somebody there to answer questions.
Don't get into that because I'm assuming that, like with the rezoning, the applicants will be there to handle that type of question. But then I'm assuming, again, in the next meeting after that, they'll be going for first reading.
Okay.
So that would be, is that prior to, we're already, yeah. So that would be prior to, so not Monday, but the first, unless something changes than what is typically done, the first meeting in November, council meeting in November, those should be first readings.
Okay, so do we need somebody?
That's, nothing was controversial.
That's what I was trying to say. I mean, it seemed like it's a down zoning that everybody was in favor of. The text amendments are pretty.
There's nothing, that's, if a member is going to attend or something, anyway, or.
Just if you want, luckily they usually listen when I say, planning commission was okay with this and was all, on all of these items, you all were unanimous, so.
There was no discussion amongst, serious and like any contentious issue or anything amongst the commission. I doubt that would be brought up, but of course it's.
Anybody like to volunteer to go? If not, it's fine, just, okay.
Is it city council on October 16th?
No.
Is that what?
That's the public
It's
hearing.
the public hearing. It's the next one would be the first reading.
November, whatever the first meeting date is.
So October 16th is the 5:30 public meeting?
Hearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go with, you guys, I guess if council releases out and says, hey, we really need somebody there, you guys shoot us an email and let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Certainly.
Future workshops and other events, anything planned, or
Friday.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, are we still on for Friday?
That was kind of internal as far as the consultant. If you've not received invitations yet, the members who said that they could go.
No, unless I got it in the last hour or
She said that she would
two.
be sending, that was today, she said that she would be sending invitations, and I sent your names and your email.
Okay.
So it is a Zoom session, so it'll come in.
Okay.
So prior to the meeting, Friday, it's the last I heard. It was her date and time.
What time is Friday?
1:30 to 2:30?
1:30, it's be about an hour, 1:30 to 2:30.
I didn't respond because I was at, I can be there.
It's via Zoom, so I'll be on this side of the room.
Okay, I'll make sure, I'll send a note tomorrow and get it to her.
All right, anybody got any final comments or anything? Anything to take from?
No, appreciate you guys.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned.